Hey guys, and welcome to this video. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my first impression of these brand new brushes by Maybelline. These are their Face Studio brushes. They retail for about $10 for the face brushes and then about $6 for the concealer and eyeshadow brush. And to my knowledge, these are sold exclusively at Walmart. I went to 3 different Walmarts to find all of them because they were out of some brushes at some Walmarts. But this is the complete set of the 5 brushes in the line. So I'm going to be demoing how to use these as well as giving you guys my first impressions on the brushes. And then I also picked up this new sponge from Maybelline. This is their Face Studio sponge, and this retails for just under $6. So I'm going to be demoing this one and giving you my first impression on it as well. So if you are interested in all of these brand new Maybelline tools, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with what I'm most excited about, and that is this new sponge by Maybelline. And just for comparison purposes, I went ahead and wet this L'Oreal sponge you guys know I love so much, so you guys can see what they look like wet next to one another. So they're very similar in size. The Maybelline one is a little bit wider, and it also has this flat edge right here, which the L'Oreal sponge does not. Just feeling them next to one another, the L'Oreal sponge feels softer than this one. This one feels a little bit more porous. I can kind of feel the holes in the sponge, whereas this one to the touch feels like a smooth surface. So this is a hard one to beat because it's my absolute favorite, but we'll see how this new Maybelline one stacks up. So I'm gonna do this on only one half of my face because I also have a foundation brush of theirs, and all their brushes in Walmart look like this. So you've got the brush handle exposed and then the actual top of the brush covered. And this is brush 110. It's called the foundation brush. So I'm gonna use this on the other half of, how do I get this off? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's hope all of the brushes are not that difficult. So anyway, like I was saying, I'm gonna use this on one half of my face and then the brush on the other half of my face because they also came out with a new foundation brush. And just looking at it, it reminds me so much, one second. It reminds me so much of this NYX brush, the NYX Professional Foundation brush that came out with their dropper foundation. Not only because of the coloring, the dark handle and then the like light to dark bristles, but also they feel very similar. They're both extremely soft and have a little divot for where you can drop the foundation. But as you guys can see, it's much smaller than the NYX one, although this one is kind of abnormally long. And for my foundation today, I'm gonna be mixing the No. 7 Stay Perfect foundation with the Bourjois Healthy Mix. So let's go ahead and start with the sponge. Like I said, it's similar in size to the L'Oreal one. It does have this flat side that's a little bit curved right here, and it says that's for precision. And then the bottom of it is completely flat. I typically like the rounded bottom just so the rounded bottom. I typically like the rounded bottom for kind of pouncing on the foundation, but we'll see. It says you're supposed to use that bottom part for foundation, so I'm going to follow instructions. I just got some on the bottom of the sponge, and I'm going to apply it with the sponge to this side of my face. So with just that one dip, I covered pretty much this entire side of my face. And what that tells me is that this sponge really does not soak up foundation badly, because usually that much foundation would not get me this far. I'm really pleasantly surprised. I don't know if you guys could tell that right when I pulled it out, when I was feeling it, I didn't think that it felt as smooth as the L'Oreal one. I didn't love the shape of it, but that just blended my foundation out beautifully. I am really impressed by this. Okay, now I'm gonna go with the brush on this side of my face. So the brush also did a nice job. The only thing that I'm not crazy about with this brush is that the divot makes it to where when you just kind of press it onto your face, all that's touching your skin is the perimeter of the brush. So you really have to push down hard enough for the whole brush to be touching your face, which is pretty hard. So if you're the type of person that really likes to buff in your foundation and you kind of push harder with your foundation brushes, I think you would really like this. It's really, really soft. It did a nice job of blending out my foundation, but I like to do a combination of the buffing and patting motion. So I kind of pat on my foundation anywhere I want a fuller coverage, and then I'll rub it in anywhere where I just need to blend it out or where I want more of a sheer coverage. So the fact that it has a divot prevents you from being able to just kind of tap it onto your skin. So I think this one comes down to preference, and between the two, I was definitely more impressed with the sponge. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with my Lottie London Got It Covered concealer in the shade Fawn. A little too much came out, so I guess we're gonna do a little bit of highlighting. That was not part of the plan. And then I'm gonna use this smaller side of the sponge to blend out my concealer. This is blending my concealer out beautifully, and it's really keeping the coverage. Sometimes sponges will soak up too much of the product and not leave enough on the skin, and like I said when I was applying the foundation, this sponge does not seem to be soaking up any of the product. Okay, so the next brush I'm going to be trying out is brush number 100. This is their powder brush. See if I can get it out. I mean, I guess I like the fact that you can't just pull these off super easily in the store and everyone get their germs on them, but at the same time, I mean, there's no perforated area on here. There's no easy way to get this off. Okay, so this is the powder brush. This is really, really pretty. It's a good size. I love the style of these brushes. They look super high-end and they feel incredibly soft. It's got a little bit of an angled top, which I like because I can use this to set underneath my eyes. I'm going to use it to apply my powder. I'm using the NYX HD Finishing Powder in Translucent. Okay, so what I'm noticing right off the bat is that this is not for those of you that like a light dusting of powder. The brush is very densely packed, so you kind of have to pat it onto your skin in order to not disturb the foundation. So I'm actually thinking that I'm going to try this out as a foundation brush. But as far as using it for powder, I think it's a little too tightly packed because I like to just do a light dusting, and this will disturb your foundation if you just kind of rub it all over your face. Okay, and now to add a little bit more color back into my face, I'm going to be using brush number 120, which is their contour brush. Okay, so this is a really interesting shape, but I'm thinking maybe it's shaped like this because you're supposed to kind of cup your cheekbone like this, but I'm going to try and just use this like I normally would a contour brush, and we'll see what feels right. I'm going to be using my number 7 bronzer in the shade Maple. Okay, so right away I feel like I have a lot of precision. It's depositing a lot of product, but again, it's so densely packed. I feel like it's rubbing off my foundation underneath it, and I don't think I'm really understanding the reason for this shape. So this just is not getting the job done for me, so I'm going to switch to my F13 from AOA Studios brush and finish applying my contour and bronzer. I feel like because the Maybelline one is so densely packed, you might be able to get away with using it with cream contour, but even still, the shape of it is just odd. I'm actually going to give this powder brush a try with my bronzer. It's doing a pretty good job. I wouldn't say I love it, but I definitely like this better as a bronzer brush than I did as a powder brush. Okay, so the last 2 brushes in the collection are brushes 140 and 130, and one of them is the concealer brush and the other is a shadow brush. And the reason I left the concealer brush to the end is because I'm going to try and use it as an eyeshadow brush. This one pulled right out. Let's see if this one does too. These are a lot easier to get out of the packaging. I just felt like the shape of this would make it good for kind of packing on eyeshadow. So I'm going to try and use it as an eyeshadow brush along with the actual eyeshadow brush. I'm going to start out using this Lid Lingerie Palette by NYX with the eyeshadow brush. I'm just going to take this light pink shade right here and put it all over my lid and up through my crease. So it's not the softest eyeshadow brush, and it's not depositing the product very well. I already know these are great eyeshadows, and it's not bending at all. This one kind of feels more like a concealer brush than it does an eyeshadow brush. Again, very tightly packed bristles, not super fluffy for the delicate eye area or for blending product. So I'm going to enlist my Wet n Wild crease brush for some help. You can see the difference in how easy I could kind of go back and forth on my eye with this brush and how much more product it picked up. I'm going to go in with this darker shade right here, still on this Wet n Wild brush, a little bit closer into the crease. Okay, now I'm going to go in with the Maybelline concealer brush, and I'm going to take my Comfort Zone palette by Wet n Wild and take this kind of light pink shimmery shade all over my lid. I wouldn't say it's my favorite kind of packer brush for the lid, but I would certainly say it's a better eyeshadow brush than the actual eyeshadow brush in this collection. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up the rest of my makeup and I will be back with my final thoughts. Hey guys, so I'm back to give you my final thoughts. I just finished up the rest of my makeup and I will leave everything that I use down in the description box if you're curious. So the brushes I think you should pass on. Let's start with the bad news and then we'll move to the good news. The brushes I think you should pass on are number 1, this contour brush. Even though I think it looks very sleek, I think it's a unique looking brush, I don't think it's very practical. The shape of it makes it a little bit difficult to work with. I'm sure there's a right way to use this. Maybe it's cupping the cheekbone, maybe it's something else, but I don't think it's overly user-friendly. I don't think you look at this brush and know what to do. I also think the bristles are extremely densely packed, and for a contour brush, especially for those of you that put contour on after foundation, which is most of us, it's a little bit too densely packed and I feel like it rubs off the product underneath. So for those reasons, I would not recommend this brush. The next brush I would not recommend is this eyeshadow brush. I don't think it's a very good brush for eyeshadow. It feels more like a concealer brush. If you're looking for a great eyeshadow brush, e.l.f. and Wet n Wild are great ways to go. This has a higher price point than both e.l.f. and Wet n Wild, and it's not the same level of quality, so definitely go with one of those if you're looking for a good drugstore eyeshadow brush. So those are the ones I would definitely pass on. And then I have a couple that are kind of more just on the fence brushes. The first is this foundation brush. I think it's a nice foundation brush. It did a good job of blending things out. The bristles are nice and densely packed. If you're someone that really likes to buff in their foundation, like I said, I think you'll really like this. If you're someone that likes to pat on your foundation, I don't think you'll be impressed. So I think it's great quality. I think it looks really nice, but it's really based off of your preference. And then the brushes I did like were this concealer brush. I think it did a good job of packing on the eyeshadow to my lid. Do I think it's better than a $3 e.l.f. brush that looks just like this? No. But did it do a good job? Yes, it did. So I would recommend it overall, though I think that there are alternatives that are cheaper than this one that do the same job. And then this last one, this powder brush, I really did like this. Again, not as a powder brush. I liked it as a bronzer brush. I could see myself definitely using this again as a bronzer brush. And like I said, I do want to try this for a foundation. When I want more of a natural look with a foundation, I feel like this might be a really quick and easy way to buff in foundation. And then last but certainly not least was my favorite product from the haul, and it was this sponge. I highly recommend this sponge. It is different than the L'Oreal one in terms of the way it feels, like I described, but as you guys could see as I was applying my foundation, it did not soak up hardly any product. And even though I didn't think I was gonna like this flat side, it did an amazing job of blending in my foundation, and I will definitely be using this again. So I'm not going to ramble on too long because I was kind of giving you my thoughts as I was applying it, but overall I am really impressed with this sponge, and I'm happy to find another great sponge from the drugstore. So that is going to be it for this video. I really hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.